to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and each month we share a portion of our vision, mission, and core values. And this month is the core values. We believe in all students. We believe all students have the ability to learn, are important, and have unique skills to contribute successfully to our world. And a valued, highly qualified, team-oriented staff that cares for, supports, and teaches every student to their full potential every day. We believe that support and teamwork among our schools, families, and communities provide the most effective learning outcomes in and out of the classroom. And we believe in relevant, inclusive, and engaging curriculum that appropriately prepares students for their life endeavors. And the next agenda item is Students of the Month. We'll start with elementary.
All right. I would like to call up here Mr. Jameson Heston. Come on up, buddy. All right. So Mr. Jameson here is a first grader in Miss Stephanie Hill's classroom, right? She's a good teacher. You like her? You want to tell them what she did to you today?
Well,
Seventh grade. Yeah. He's been milking this tooth for a while, so he can earn an extra $1. This turns what, 7, right? So he got an extra $1. Yeah. All right. So a few things. Mom and Dad are over here. Clinton and Amy Heston over here. I'm sure they're very proud of him as we are. I was talking to him when he came to my office. He was really quiet, and I asked Mom if he was that quiet at home. She said, absolutely not. Pretty loud at home, huh? Yeah. Okay. He has 2 brothers, right? Hayden and Lincoln. I asked him what his favorite subject in school was. You remember what he told me? PE. There you go. That's a good one. I asked him what his favorite hobby was. Of course, I had to explain to him what a hobby actually is. And he told me his favorite hobby was making Hayden play Bloons TD6 video game, right? I love that. Making Hayden play. That was a good one. What did you tell me your favorite food was? What? Smoothies. That's right. Oranges. Smoothies. Favorite color? And? Orange and lime green, he told me. Favorite movie? Jumanji, yes, that's a good one. I like that one. And I asked him what he liked best about Bloomfield, and he said, doing my math in the morning. Boy, there you go.
It's not a common thing.
Okay, favorite subject. So you know that. You want to hear what the teacher said about you? She says, Jameson is a sweet, kind-hearted, and hard-working student. He is respectful, trustworthy, and responsible. He is a blessing to have in class. You probably are, since she pulls kids' teeth out of her mouth. That's what he's quiet when he's up here. Isn't it? All right, this is for you. This is the month flat. All right, everyone. Jameson has. Hey, buddy. When you put this on Facebook, we'll say, man, don't hold my teeth. Still not Facebook. Get it? Couldn't find it.
Okay, yep, we'll go ahead. All right, so for the middle school, is this, November is, sixth grade, student of the month. Our sixth grade student of the month is Ariel Colbert. Come on up here, Ariel. Ariel, getting ready for the first night of cheer, right? Okay, so we're gonna go here. Just a few questions for Ariel. Her favorite food, fettuccine Alfredo, correct? All right. She is involved, in Shirley, Bloomfield sixth grade Shirley. Her hobbies, reading and baking. Her favorite subject, man. And what she likes most about Bloomfield Middle School are her friends and her teachers. So thank you, Ariel, and congratulations to you on being nominated and voted on by your teachers, your plaque for Student of the Month, and your Bloomfield Cardinal Way t-shirt. All right, good job for you. I stacked the pictures.
Okay.
There you go. Very nice. Very nice. You guys, you all go.
Can I do just a quick update? So thank you for voting on the trip last time. We had 20 students signed up to go and 12 more seeking fundraising, so hopefully a group of 30. And I'm heading back up to Batesdale, so thank you so much for that. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you. Congratulations, Ariel. And also the November Student of the Month for Bloomfield High School is sophomore Dominic May. Dominic, get on up here. Congratulations, sir. Dominic's favorite food is stuffed crust pepperoni pizza. All right. Dominic is involved in NJROTC and the band. His hobbies are writing, drawing, and playing games. And his favorite subject, history. All right. And the thing he likes most about Bloomfield High School is its atmosphere. Small size, good teachers, and a great student community leads to an overall positive experience. Thank you, Dominic. That is well put, man. Well said. So congratulations. And your teacher. All right, you're welcome. And Mom, you go right over there and snap a picture of man and son of the farm.
All right. Well, again, congratulations to the Student of the Month, and we invite you to stay for the rest of the meeting, but if you do need to leave, we understand, and we'll continue on here with the Bloomfield Elementary recognitions. Yeah.
All right.
Recognitions, I'll get it out here in a second.
Sometime.
Exactly.
I'd like to recognize our character and ideal graduate trait drawing winners from last month. The character trait was courage last month. Joanna Just, Olivia Hall, Caden Dean, Reagan Hash, Shay Woodruff, Oakland Chenault, Bentley Campbell, and Ainsley Haywood were all winners of our drawing. Just a couple others here. Mrs. Patterson had her book fair this week, and she told me this morning that they had already sold about $7,000 on books and stuff to community members and students. And a lot of the money that she gets from that, all of it actually goes back to new books for the library and some library supplies. Miss Sarah Ross and Mrs. Kim Hill are going to send tomorrow morning Christmas cards overseas to our active duty military. Miss Ross had her classrooms make the cards, and Miss Hill helped her get all that set up and put together, and they're going to mail them out in the morning, they told me. And talking about active duty military and all that, we had our Veterans Day program. So I want to recognize our veterans, obviously. I think Bloomfield has one of the best programs that I've ever seen. And I think a big part of that goes to our NJROTC program. I mean, without them, and they just put it over the top. They really do. Chief Holtberg, Gunner Lemons and the cadets, I mean, they just, we went to them and asked them to do something they hadn't done, as far as I know, while I was here, and they didn't even hesitate. They just took off with it. And that was the MIAPOW recognition table. They just took off with it and didn't even hesitate. And really, it was the kids. Chief's like, well, let me ask the kids. And one of them came in and was like, nope, we got it. So I really appreciate them. And it takes a lot to get that program set up between the custodians, the secretaries. Miss Bladen helped us out a ton. It wasn't even her turn to do it, but we lean on her quite a bit, and she never backs down. And then you got your choir and your band programs. And again, they get it done. They just get it done. I had one of the veterans asked me, always said, were you in charge of this? Were you the one that did this? And I said, nope, I'm the one trying not to screw it up. And I mean that, because we put the agenda out there, but they get it done. Our third grade, I'd like to recognize Brandy Frady. Our third grade went over to Crane to do their STEM time. And Miss Frady she just tears it up. Kids love it. Teachers love it. I always hear good reports when they go over there, and I appreciate her efforts over there. And she's always, if we don't call her, she's calling us, wanting to know when we want to come. So also, I'd like to recognize fifth grader Kaylin Stevens. She's playing a game tonight, or I'd have her down here. But past weekend over at WRV, they had a fundraiser where the Harlem Wizards came in. I got snookered into being on the team against them. That was humbling, I'll tell you that much. But Kaylin, they had a halftime contest, free throw contest. You had to get the ball, dribble to the basket, shoot a layup, first one back to the chair, and then it was kind of like a knockout program where you had 5 chairs, 6 kids, and they just kept going down. And against boys and girls, she won it. And I kept telling everybody on the bench, that girl right there is going to win. I'm telling you, I've seen her in the gym. She's going to win. And she did. Wasn't even close. Tore it up. So represented Bloomfield very well. This isn't really a recognition, but I don't know if you guys got to see on Facebook the bucket challenge where I got a little wet. That was from our fundraiser. If students sold 15 or more items, then they had a chance to throw a beanbag at a target, and the plunger lifted up and the water fell on the principal. And I might have been doing some trash talking all week to get them motivated, but we had 22 kids that were able to throw the thing, and 20 of them hit the target. I was not expecting that.
I don't know if I've ever heard that middle school gym as loud as that.
Oh my!
Elementary, they were very excited.
They were wound.
You got wet.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed watching it as well.
I appreciate that. I really do. I appreciate that.
You
But they
like
were.
the water, don't you?
Huh?
You like the water. You are all
Yeah.
about the dunking this summer as well.
I'm pretty good at trash talking, but
I
I
do.
get people to want to put me in the water, I guess. I'll tell you what, that water was cold though. I'd rather be submerged in water than to have that plunger come up and it just slowly just come down on your head. I mean, that was.
Well, at least your hair didn't.
Always a positive.
He has a point. He has a point. That's really all I have. I do want to say, since David Dean set me up last month on this one, I just quick thank you to Trent. Again, I didn't even know Trent until a few years ago when you guys hired him. He was a great hire, and I appreciate your leadership, appreciate your friendship. We definitely were better off with you. As Dave said earlier today, I'm still mad at you for leaving, but I get it. And so we're going to miss you, and we'll keep in touch. Every time something happens that I need your advice on, I'm going to send you a hate mail and then do what I need to do. But thank you so much for your leadership. Appreciate it. All right. On you, bro.
So, recognitions here for the high school and the middle school. First off, we had our chili supper there on Friday the 4th, and that was well attended. In fact, we ran out of chili. So good to see the numbers out and the support for the athletic program. And, they represented or recognized several all the way grades all the way through for the basketball, Redliners cheer and so forth like that. So it's a big evening, and it was a lot of fun, and always something to look forward to. Just kicks off the year, right, on the season, the winter season. Our juniors did an early college visit to USI on November 8th. That's part of our early college experience, and they had a great trip down there. And I always like to, if we are headed someplace and we've got kids down there, I always like to get word out to students that are down there that, hey, Bloomfield's going to be there if you guys want to see. So I know about a handful of them came and and we're able to hook up with the Bloomfield juniors that were down there, and I know I had lunch there in the Commons with them. So that's always an exciting thing. I think one of the pictures that I posted on Twitter had a couple of our graduates in there as well. So, but also want to recognize our early college team. We went to our first networking meeting in Columbus last Thursday, and we are we'll find out this. We'll find out in December if we're part of this Reckon Grant Rules Early College Networking Grant, and if they get it, it's a federal grant, several $1 million. It's not just Bloomfield, but it's other schools in the state, and we'll see if Janet Boyle, who's the director of the early college itself, she told me there at the meeting that we will find out, and so hopefully we'll get that, and that will open up a lot of doors for our current dual credit staff, and a lot of things go with that. And we'll actually be a mentor school in that. We will have another school that we partner with and mentor them through the early college process. So I'm proud of that for number one, for us being where we're at with that. New Tech, our middle school New Tech leadership team met with our new coach this past Tuesday. Thank you to Steve, there you're at over there. We have kind of made it nice that the feed store opens that up for us, and it's a way for our staff to get away from the building and no distractions, and be able to work down there in these workshops. And our new coach, I can't pronounce her last name, Christina, she's from El Paso. So she flew up here and was with us on Tuesday, and she'll be back in January. And then we have 3 more dates with her this year. So looking forward to that. We did some learning walks where we visited classrooms and the projects that they were working on, and then went through our survey data that we did in September for our middle school students on school climate and culture. And that was very positive to see the numbers. In fact, Trinity mentioned last time, I'll do that next board meeting. I will share those numbers with you on the climate survey from the middle school and the percentages, because that was really positive to see in the comments that we had on that. The air rifle team for ROTC, they went to Area 3. You guys approved that. It's Port Clinton up in Sandusky, cold. I'm sure it's really cold now with the snow, but we took 2 teams, and our number 1 team, or our top team, which is Second Amendment, that was their name. They were led by Brady Hudson, consisted of Katie Barker, Addison Thompson, and Drake Sisk. They finished 4th in the Area 3. That is a great effort. I mean, because Area 3, it's Illinois, it's Ohio, it's Indiana, Kentucky. There are a lot of schools that are involved. I mean, so you're going against numbers. But one thing that we don't really get into and talk about are the main schools, and the one I always hear them talk about is Zion Benton out of Chicago, and they have over 500 cadets in their school, and so going against us, and they're national teams, and we finished 4th, and that's a just a great effort right there by our team. Our second team, called the Sharpshooters, consisted of Dustin Hamilton, Lydia Weddle, Aiden Wright, and Avery Malone, and they didn't place in the top 10, but they did do a good job while they were there. So I want to congratulate them. I want to point out Brady Hudson and Drake Sisk. Excuse me. Last week, they were officially sworn in by Commander Lemons, and they have joined the United States Navy. And so they will be getting their orders, as the school goes along, and then in the summer, they will certainly be going on to that. And I'm proud of those 2 boys, young men, not boys, but young men, and what they've done, and they're leading there in the unit. I do want to also point out that we had former graduate David Dixon, recently graduated from boot camp, and the George twins, Trenton and Spencer. And just to give you a little hint, I don't know if you heard, but they kind of like Facebook Live it in the ceremony, and there was Trenton George out in front leading the drill team. I mean, he was, it speaks well of our unit, as you know, and but just the character of the kids and the leadership of Mike and Chief Gunnar Lemons and Chief Holbrook do a great job. High school recognized students who exhibited the cardinal trait for October, and that which was articulate. And we recognized them. We had the senior walk, or excuse me, the Halloween parade on Monday, which went very well. And so we pushed the awards for the October back to the Friday. And so those students that were recognized for being articulate throughout the month of October received a certificate. And then one got a drawing for Blizzard of their choice, and they got a t-shirt. So this is the first time that I had that the person didn't refuse, but they just didn't want the Blizzard. They just passed it on to the next person. So so that person got their Blizzard. So that was good on that. November's cardinal trait is respectful, and we'll have our middle school and high school convocation on the 30th, that Wednesday the 30th. I want to recognize Brett Sherrard signing his national letter of intent to play baseball at Butler. It's a huge, it's quite an honor. I mean, certainly based on his efforts and his work that he's put into that, and had a nice little signing down here with the backdrop and the new commons area. It's kind of becoming the new center of where we congregate. And I like that because it is beautiful. And so, but congratulations to Brett. He'll be furthering his baseball and academic career at Butler University. And that's it speaks a lot for his efforts. Our FFA, of course, they went to national convention there towards the end of October, and the forestry judging team went out this week. I haven't heard the results on that. I don't know if they have them back yet or not, but they will have that. And then on the agenda, you have them. They're going to the rodeo this week, this Saturday. And that was, they would have done that in Indianapolis. The tickets were sold out. So they're going to the North American down there in Louisville. And then I'd like just to end by thanking three people here. I want to thank Marie Hassler. Today was her last day as our food service director. We had a little thing here after school, and Marie's done a great job during her tenure here. And I want to wish her all the best. Calissa Lehman, who is our graduation and career coach, and she'll be leaving Tuesday's her last day. And Calissa, of course, Trent's older daughter, and she has done a really fantastic job. Just coming into a position, not having an understanding, but she is I'm really proud of her. She had a great rapport with her students. She met with them. She was meeting with them regularly, which was what we needed, and she had to grasp her knowledge of the graduation pathways and what all it took, and did a fantastic job. So we have to fill that, and her resignation is, of course, something you'll approve tonight. And so I want to wish best of luck to Calissa, and then also to Trent here. I did say that. I did. I'm not happy, but I mean, we're friends, and it's certainly why he does that. The decision to go. We're going to miss you. And I'll miss you. We've been friends. We first met in the middle of '90s, coaching against each other. And when Trent interviewed, I didn't say anything to y'all, and you guys reached out after it was over, and I just said, hey, just to be clear, I've known Trent for a long time, and we'd be better off if we had him, and we have been for the last 2.5 years. So thank you, man. I appreciate you. Love you. And I know we'll stay in touch and we'll run into each other. So tomorrow's his last day, so still get to rib him a little bit and all that. But 2.5 years ago, I stood in front of the whole district there in the cafeteria and told them that my exact words were, we're in good hands, and we have been. So I just hope that we're able to get somebody to continue on with the initiatives that you started and carried through, and really the vision that you had for Millfield. I appreciate you for that, man. Thanks. All right.
All right, thank you. And is there any public comment regarding agenda items?
Not that we're signed in.
Seeing none, we'll go on to the consent agenda.
All right, consent agenda, things that we do kind of monthly there, pretty common. like approve the meeting minutes from the previous month's board meetings. The treasurer's report, which has the appropriation report, fund report, and claims that's in your board packet. Personnel, and you mentioned the resignation there. They're listed there as well as the hires, the ECA athletic position. They're listed there in your packet. I won't read all those. And then the donations, we usually read the donations and thank them. And there's an anonymous one. There's a Lions Club to the ROTC, Indiana State Museum to the BHS Art Club, Day of Frank to the ROTC, Apple Festival to the ROTC, American Legion Post 196 to the ROTC, Scotland Festival to the NJROTC, and Newberry Masons donations to the ROTC. And we thank you for your donations. It helps them do the things they want to do with these groups. We appreciate it. Any questions on the consent agenda and discussion?
Yeah, I guess just, this is just related to Murray resignation. What's the workaround for right now?
Yeah, right now, and I sent this out to staff today as well, in your executive content, but I actually could tell the public as well. So Sarah Helms, who works in there right now, is going to be the interim food service director. We're still going to have Marie. She said she'd be willing to take phone calls, emails to help. Laura Weddle's also going to step up and give additional support to Sarah Helms until we can find a new food service director.
I haven't looked, so we have that posted.
Yeah.
Yes, it's posted. We got our first applicant today. Any questions?
Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion?
I'll motion to approve it.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? All right, thank you. And other business?
Yeah, this is a FFA rodeo trip. This was out of state, Louisville, Kentucky. It is after the fact. It came in right after last board meeting. We have had it passed retroactively. We try not to do that, but in this case, we okay that and just ask that you kind of retro approve that. My daughter went, had a great time. Great rodeo. So.
Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
All right, and a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? All right, thank you.
All right, we have an independent contract agreement for the interim superintendent, Dr. Carrie Milner. She's been interim superintendent here before. She's done a good job. And, board worked with her, offered her this contract, and just looking for approval of that agreement.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? All right, thank you.
Last month, we had a great presentation by Steve Corbin over there talking about middle school soccer and the growth of that program and requesting that it be a school-sponsored sport. We had a discussion, administrative team, and we support that decision. So just looking for approval at middle school soccer that can be a school-sponsored sport.
Any questions or comments?
I just want to say I appreciate their presentation and all the information and everything put together and the passion behind it. So I'm excited about it. Me too.
All right, no other questions or comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
I move we approve.
All right, and a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? All right, thank you.
Okay, next thing is asking for approval of high school students to be hired as substitute custodians. Technically, probably would not have to do this, but it's something we haven't done in the past. I felt like I wanted the board's approval of this. We still are struggling with having custodians. Jonas had the idea of offering that to teachers, and we've had teachers step up to get some part-time work in, helping cleaning the school, and that's been very helpful, but still are some gaps. So Jonas had the idea of, what if students do it? And I've looked into it, and there's no problem, but we want to have some conditions with that they're at least 16 years old, that there's parent consent, in good attendance, a C average in school, only work with adult supervision, work no later than 9 p.m., have to do a limited criminal history check like all employees. Well, for them, limited criminal history check we felt was appropriate. Only work in areas of the school building where they do not attend school, and they'll get paid the substitute custodial rate, which is $12 per hour for the non-certified staff member. Any questions on that?
I think it's a great idea.
We'll see if we got any takers on that. The teachers have, and the students.
Have we gotten
Do
any,
that's part-time.
have we gotten any applications in for
I don't
janitorial?
think we've done it.
We have recently?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I didn't know that. Sorry.
Yeah. Today.
Today?
Oh, that's
Okay.
true. I didn't
And
know
then there
that.
have been more applications picked up today.
Okay.
too.
So how will this be advertised to the students?
Probably in the announcements.
This is in your-
Word of mouth to get out.
Would they be required to work those hours, or would they pick their own hours?
You know, I didn't talk to those details about Jonas. Jonas will pray where it's needed, and he'll say what's needed, and then they'll pick, will be my guess of how that would work.
And how will this affect our current custodians if they're having to supervise? They gonna be able to do their jobs, or is it gonna put more strain on them supervising them?
It's a good question.
You broke up the teachers into 4-hour shifts, like taking an 8-hour shift and split it. That's how he's done it with the staff. So my guess is similar as what, with the seniors. You're right, those are good questions.
I assume with adult supervision, I mean, they're not going to be standing over them all the
Right.
time, but they're not going to be assigning
I
them.
don't know if you're right, but
You know,
I mean,
project
they
or a
be
job.
present in that building
I
as
mean,
they're
it's no
working,
different
yes.
than doing it
Right.
anywhere else.
So it's a fair question.
Oh, that's-
Sure. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
I motion to approve.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor? All right, thank you.
All right, the state auditor has recommended that all fundraisers at school get approved by the board. And so we're going to start seeing those. I do want to say, since this may be a regular occurrence, are you okay if we start putting those in the consent agenda at the beginning instead of a separate other business moving forward?
I would think that would be fine.
Makes sense. I think it'll be fairly regular, like personnel and donations. We have fundraisers here. So that moving forward, I'll tell Dr. Miller, fundraiser request, just put in the consent agenda. So we have 2 of them here, Culture Club fundraiser requests. Since they're separate line items, we'll do those separately and explain that up there. It's a euchre tournament. Something I enjoy euchre quite a bit. Maybe something I would have joined in on there. And then a breakfast to be hosted December and sold at the American Legion as well. So Culture Club fundraisers, looking for approval.
All right, questions or comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
Okay, Lana, and then second? All right, all in favor? Thank you.
Then there's an art club fundraiser as well, and you have his description in the attachment there. His form. A paper airplane day. So we designed that. Any questions? Looking for approval of that.
Comments or questions? Do I have a motion to approve?
I motion to approve.
Okay, and a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? All right, thank you.
On this next one, liquidated damage for the construction project. I'm just gonna be really, I mean, I'm always honest. I always hate this. I'm gonna be honest with you. So sometimes I'm not.
As
No,
opposed to what?
I'm just a little more straightforward, but, this is, this last week, of course, we called final completion last week. I never knew how hard it was to finish a project. There's just a lot of straggler ends and looking at contracts and how do we make sure there's still some things we're waiting on doors. We've got the elevator to put in the elementary. The project was late by months. There's been some frustrations overall. Contractor, the architect, the rep, Kramer, Corp, Dan Sokolsky, we've all worked well together. This last week has been a little bit of struggle as we talked about liquidated damages. I presented a document that I put in here in executive content that I felt like because of increased costs that we've had to continue to pay the architect with the length of the project being extended, as well as Kramer, as well as just the additional workload on our staff and myself, that we felt some liquidated damages would be appropriate. I presented what I thought based on listening to Kramer. I've never done this before, so I'm listening to Kramer, who does this for a living. As a consultant, I'm listening to the architects who've done this. And to be quite frank, they were on kind of opposite ends of the spectrum on this. So I found myself in the middle. In fact, I used the term, I kind of felt like a rag doll listening to what Kramer thinks we should do and what KRM thinks we should do. What that document was kind of somewhere in the middle between kind of listening and sorting through all that. The architect, and I've talked to other superintendents about this, and I've talked to one of our attorneys, and they felt what I proposed was appropriate. The architect does not. The other thing I've heard from other superintendents and their attorney, it is nice if all three parties, the consultant, the architect, and the owner, me representing the owner, are in agreement. Right now, we're not in complete agreement. Kramer, so basically we've had some liquidated damages. You saw my document. KRM's recommending a certain amount, a smaller amount. And we eventually agreed to that. She had a meeting with Empire Contractors today. They were not happy with that and proposed yet a smaller amount. So my amount initially was a certain amount, and they felt like we all decided on a lower amount, and now it's even a lower amount as described in here. Kramer now saying, you know what, you would easily, in his opinion, feels like if this would go to litigation and court, you would easily win and get a lot more money. KRM's telling me, no, that's not the case. We don't agree with that. And we're not going to support that. We're not KRM's not going to put our name on a letter that we don't agree with. And generally that comes from the architect. So I have found myself in the middle. I think it needs to be, especially since I'm leaving, the board's decision. I think one of the questions you may ask me, what do you want to do? Well, I've been mixed. And I've sent you the options that Empire came back with. KRM wants option 3 at the lowest amount. I have gone today just thinking about this from all the way. Let's just forget LDs. If we were on budget, and we're fine with that. Yes, there was delays and there's been some issues, but I just don't want to mess with it. I want to sign off and be done and leave. You know what I mean? 2, then when I talk to Dan, Winifred, I kind of feel that way. And then I talk to Dan, it's like, well, let's just go from all then, you know, hundreds of thousands potentially liquidated damage, according to him, if we follow the contract. At this moment, I feel like the option 3 that KRM agrees with, Kramer does not, would be somewhere in the middle on the low end of what I think we could get. But Empire basically verbally agreed to that. That they could, that was their option. That was one of their options that they would be okay with. It's a small amount, but it does help with some of the damages that, and the issues that we had at the end of the project. It compensates us at least a little bit, which will help. The board can decide, hey, we don't even, let's just finish the project. Or you can say, hey, move forward with what you're thinking, the option 3, what KRM's thinking. Or you could go, no, let's go for it all. Kramer, we don't care if we go to litigation. Litigation can last months, years sometimes. And you got to pay attorneys a lot of money when you go through litigation. We can also table it and say, hey, we want to hear from all the parties before we make a decision if we want to move forward. So that was a lot pretty quick there. And what questions or discussion do you want? And or do you want to just, someone wants to make a recommendation? I don't know.
I'm not comfortable like making a decision right now. This is the first that I'm personally hearing of it. We had talked about this a few months ago, whenever they came and gave us a presentation, and I asked some questions then, and then that's the last I heard of any of this. So I personally don't feel like, I mean, I'm curious what others think, but I mean, I just now reading some of these updates that were sent in here today after conversation you had. So I'm personally not comfortable deciding on that right now without having some sort of discussion of it. But that's my opinion.
I believe Dan came, was that July?
August.
Was it August?
It was August. It was, well, maybe it was the end of July because we were getting ready to start school, and at that time he was saying we were substantially complete. And my question to him was, did they not factor in overtime in the bid? I know how that works
Right.
with my husband's job, and
Part of the problem came in after that because it was gonna be done before school. And now it ended up being August, September, October, middle of November before it got done. And that's when there started to be some, and I think in my document that I sent to you guys weekly, the comments where LDs are being considered and talked about, but it won't be decided to the final completion. And so we got final completion last week, and then we started talking about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's where it's been for the last week, where I felt like the rag doll.
Does
And
this
I was
fall,
getting ready to, going to share it with you once we came to a decision. It's been hard to come to a decision. I mean, literally, that last part of this, I got at 5:15 today. And so there's still discussion right up to the end of the day.
does this fall on them why we don't have heat in the new part of the building over here in the offices?
Absolutely.
We have no,
And that's one of Dan's big things that I argue the final completion, because the transformer's not in and,
Exactly.
and there's still straggling things. That's why he thinks you can move forward without worrying about it. KRM, you've seen her response down here that I put in the executive content feels completely the opposite.
And what is that based on? I mean, can you gauge that from the conversations there? I mean, why is their response so different?
I wish I could answer that.
is it
I
because
don't
they're
know. I
afraid to
think
hurt
that's-
that relationship? I mean, are they not looking at the school's best interest and they're worried more about their relationship?
And if we seek liquidate, we're at risk of not getting the project completed altogether.
I've gotten all kinds of answers to that, seriously. So like some people don't want to liquidate it. Dan just, even during the time, Dan advised me, don't start throwing out dollar numbers or what you're going to do. Your contract covered it. It's covered in the contract. just say you're considering them. And that's what I've said. We're considering them. We'll decide at the end of the project. And you know, if you can just follow, they've got the contract, they signed it, they know what it says in black and white. You don't have to overstate it. You don't have to say we're gonna do it. Because sometimes, you know, and Winifred said this too, that sometimes people walk off the project. And when you start talking about it, they don't want to do it. Or they do it real quick to get it done, and it's haphazard. And so I didn't make any commitment that we were or we weren't, but that we would evaluate at final completion. And I was serious about that, you know. And then when we got to that point last week and we started discussing it, I was not anticipating the polar responses. And that's just kind of where we're at right now.
So we have the doors that aren't in, the elevator, the transformers.
Which is supposed to be done this week. I mean, it was supposed to be done longer ago, but it's.
Anything else?
Yeah, from that document,
There's a
those bullet
punch
points, the bullet points that I've sent are still things that are kind of stronger, but not, I mean, they're thing, I mean, we felt okay doing final completion. It was not, the transformer was not realized until it got cold. We turned the heat on and they were like, so this isn't done? We thought this was done. And then they had issues, I didn't understand all the issues, but I said, yeah, and they're fixing it, you know. One in Winford, she's literally just talking on the phone before I got here. She said, hey, this is a beautiful project. We've worked well together. It's only 2 months and a little bit of weeks behind, and all construction projects are late. I don't think we need to, go to litigation and make a big deal about this. And I understand that idea, but then, Dan does this. He was the guy in our South complex that got that all fixed and done right. And he says, no, they did not follow the contract. They didn't ask for extra days. They didn't have a counter like, and he listed, and I've listed those things, but he says, what you offered was generous. Them going down to what they're going down to is ridiculous in his opinion, but KRM's like, even questioning whether they should do option 3, or anything at all. So
what doesn't make sense to me, and what my question was to him and to why, my husband is a pipe fitter, and he was over the hospital job at Bloomington, and and even now with his job, it's nearing the end of it, and they're going to get it done by their completion date. He's pulling 60 hours a week, and they factor that in when they bid it. Where have they been? Like
that was one of my arguments.
I know you didn't say it like you meaning it, but like, no, not all construction jobs don't go past the completion date if you have a good job superintendent.
Who was absent
So
on this job? I can count on one hand how many times. Here. But at the same time, the project's done, it looks good, we're on budget, so that's the soft end.
How much is it because they can't get supply, like, obviously it's not their problem, it's not their fault.
Well, and that's what you have to do then, is finding of all that stuff. So they would have the mediation, that potential litigation, then you have to sort all that. It just takes all kinds of time and money, attorney fees, to have the findings of all that, determine what is the actual damages, what could the contractor not help, what I mean? And, we did have $1 million of change orders on this. So that does extend project. We have enhancements and change orders. Bids came in lower, what I mean? So and get anything like, we got to make this change, that's what change orders are about. So, that's the argument against liquidated damages, is there were enough changes, things beyond their control, and they were only 2 months and a few weeks behind. project's done. But Andy said I could list a whole list of things and, you know, contracts at this date. So my recommendation at this point would be to go just from talking to the architects are in that position where they're supposed to kind of mediate, and they have a little more hand on making that final decision. Basically, KRM said if we go for more, they're going to pull out, which means then we're just relying on Empire to help us and attorneys. I don't like that. That's the direction it's going to go, because then again, all this time and money for attorney fees to figure out who you point the finger at. You know what I mean? What were the reasons? We're on budget. We're going to get a little bit here. Now this is no guarantee, but she said, I mean, this is Empire's options. So they basically said one of these three options, we get at least a little bit of liquidated damages, but we can sign off in the project with a little bit of extra money to pay for the extra, all those things I mentioned.
Does that come with a contract stating that
Yeah, it'll
we
be in
want
writing.
this done again by a certain date, and then what if they don't? I know those are hypotheticals.
That's
but
the heart right there where they say, the hard part of option 3 for me is that where it says any past, present, or future claims for liquidated damage are null and void. No LDs will be accepted. That's the line, that's the hardest one on me for that, because if that elevator doesn't get done by June 30th, and if you look at my bullet points that I said, the reason I started taking control of those meetings more, because things weren't getting done, they weren't getting done well, and they kept saying dates, and every time we'd meet, say, hey, it's gonna be done next week. Every time we'd meet, well, now it's gonna be in 2 more weeks, and now it's gonna be in 3 more weeks. You can look at every one of those bullet points, I believe, and see how the dates change. It's like, to me, it was either they were immoral or incompetent. Immoral because they were just lying to me, just to appease me, or they were incompetent where they actually thought they could get it done on the date they said, but they had no clue that it was going to take 3 more months than what they said. And that's what ticks me off, because they promised me 8/1 up until a week before 8/1. You know what I mean? And that's what I said in my document, and that's why I feel we could do liquidated damages from August 1 for final completion 11 and 11, I think it was. And that's the dollar amount came up to. And then I thought, well, considering our change orders and enhancements, I'll cut that in half. And that's what I presented, but KRM couldn't get behind that. And they had their calculations that brought it down to, you know, half of that. And then presented to Empire, and they have half of that. But it's been quite a learning. I don't know if it's a positive learning experience for me, to be honest, but it's been an experience this week. So I think moving forward, it's got to be a board's decision. Do we even want to move forward with liquidated damage at all? It's really what I came to ask. But now it's gotten a little more specific, because I thought that letter I put on there was going to be what was proposed, but now it's come back to half of what that letter is.
And
You know what I mean?
with all the 3 options that came back at 5 something today that I didn't even know were on here. Right. I haven't had a chance to look at it. There's a lot of legalese involved in all 3 options. I don't feel comfortable about making a decision on
And I get that.
right now.
Is that gonna cost?
I feel like it needs to be tabled.
I don't think so, but I can't answer that with certainty.
But I mean, we've got Kramer suggesting one thing, Aaron suggesting another, and you're not even really sure exactly what you think to recommend. So I mean, I just don't feel like we have enough information right now, but without reading it in more depth.
And have a meeting with them?
Yeah, that's what I said
With
on the
whoever
table. I
at this
said,
point, I don't know KRM and, I mean, I don't know.
yeah, I put the decision does not have to be made tonight. If you'd like to hear from all parties, table the decision for the discussion.
I make a motion to table this decision and further this discussion and get more information and maybe hear from Empire and KRN at least.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion, we have a second, okay, all in favor? All right, thank you.
And I just want to say, I feel one of my goals of leaving here is get this sucker checked off and
Sorry.
be done with it.
Maybe you should
But
be longer.
I understand your decision because I'm in the middle of it. I don't exactly know what to do. Obviously, you're just getting this information about as quickly. I mean, someone called Steve about it yesterday, and it's like I literally just got a letter 2 hours ago, and I haven't had a chance to communicate it. It's changed since then, so it's just kind of hot off the press, and it's been a hot item this week, and I get why you want more information to make a decision. So
So how do we go
I
about,
just apologize that I couldn't get it done.
it's not your fault, how do we go about getting them in here for a meeting? Is that something that can be like a work session each day or?
I can, I'll tell Dr. Miller where we're at. I'll tell, obviously, Karen, I'll tell Kramer.
I mean, it's gonna need to happen soon.
Right. And so the cons to not checking this off, I mean, we're just gonna be paying the architect or?
I will discuss that with you.
We've already signed off. We, right?
Yes. Well, except with the strategy.
Right.
The understanding, and it's in the contract that they have to complete.
What's the holdup on the doors?
Just don't have it.
It took us forever to get our doors healed, so they came in.
Now, does that include the locks out here that don't lock right? Is that the doors you're talking about?
Lots of stuff that she was working through.
So
We
locks is
decided-
another
we
issue on
decided
top of
to
doors.
Start going with our local locksmith guy because that's a long story too, but the company we're working with has kind of got a monopoly and their customer service is absolutely horrible. And I said, do you think our local guys, we got our local guy involved, and he's gonna be able to do what we want for cheaper. Which tells me maybe we should just gone with him in the first place, but.
Regarding the heat or the lack of, is it like this in the classrooms? Like, are the classrooms,
Oh,
is
it's
it?
only that.
in the new
It's
new
only
offices.
Right past
The
that
new
door.
offices,
yeah.
It's the new transform.
All right.
Moving on to.
Sorry about that, but that's just where we're at. I wish it was done 3 months ago. Which is part of the reason we consider looking at it. So, so we will wrap this just superintendent report. I just want to say thank you, school board, for hiring me. It's been a great experience. People here treated me well for the most part. And I've made great relationships. I've learned a ton. Again, this decision was based on family. It's back near my hometown, where I'll be superintendent, and we're excited about that. I'll be honest with you, every day since I made the decision, I'm like, what am I doing? Why did I make this decision? As we're talking about the logistics and details of moving, and people, people said kind things to me and everything. It's like, I'm making it harder on me. But we do feel in the long haul, it's going to be the best decision for our family. Again, we thank you for your support and love and the opportunity, and you'll be missed.
So will you?
Thanks.
All right, do we have board member comments? You're speechless, Terry?
I am.
Well, I do want to give an update on the superintendent search. The board and our new elected board members met with the university search team last Thursday. Dr. Yeah, Terry McDaniel, thank you. I knew his name, I couldn't think of it. Met with him, he's assisting us with that. We've worked on the application that we hope to have either tomorrow or Monday on the school's website, along with ISBA and the Superintendent Association's website, and DOE's website. And then also he provided a link just today, I'll send out to everybody on the board here and the new members for this survey that he talked about. It's a 3 or 4 question survey that we're going to send out to the public and the students and things like that. So we'll have that in the next week also, and hopefully we can get this search started. So is there any other comments or questions? All right, this meeting is adjourned. Oh, nope, sorry, future meeting. Forgot that. Our next board meeting will be December the 15th at 7 p.m. here in the Media Center. And then we will have our school board reorganization meeting to be determined, but I think we were going to plan on the same time period as last year, and what, January the 5th is the tentative date for the reorg meeting. And the Board of Finance meeting will be that day also. So we will have the reorg meeting in January. Now the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.